All right, my guest today is a good friend that I met just at happenstance at a Fairway Mortgage annual event. And man, we got introduced to each other and we just kind of hit it off. There, sometimes you just get with somebody and you kind of have this mutual, in our case, ball busting connection and tendency. And literally from that moment, we saw each other again at another event a few months later, and just kind of kept in touch, just kind of a kindred spirit, right? A friend, a brother from another mother. There's lots of terms for that. But before I get into introducing TJ, I just want to do a very quick quote. This is what I read this morning and just resonated with me. Sometimes I get ones that are a little quirky that make a lot of sense. And I don't have a source for this. It's just something that I heard, that the road of life is paved with flat squirrels who couldn't make a decision. Be decisive. I feel like in a lot of instances, man, in our business, we have to make decisions quickly and we have to stand by them and we have to make sure that we're educated. It doesn't mean to just dive into making a decision without thinking about it, but you definitely have to have that purpose, that why that drives your decisions so that you can make them quickly. Because in the absence of the why, sometimes you flounder with those decisions. So my guest today is TJ Curran. TJ is from Providence, Rhode Island. You'll hear his accent when we're talking, and really, really glad that you could make time to join me today. Thanks, TJ. I appreciate it.
No problem. I want to clarify, though, that I spent quite a few years having the accent beaten out of me. So you might not get the accent that you're expecting or hoping for. So you have to go to like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck in a Boston crime caper for that.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So
Right.
as I always talk about with everyone, I want to talk about family first. So TJ has been married for 5 years. Very similar situation to me as a 2-year-old boy. So we kind of go from work at work to work at home. Kind of come home and if you don't have kids, you have this awesome luxury of just kind of plopping down on your couch and watch a little TV. And man, I don't even know what that's like anymore. I'm sure TJ, 2 years in, you're probably feeling the same way.
It's a lot. My wife she's a pediatric psychologist, so she does a lot of the heavy lifting, but I'm there for support for sure. It's two jobs, but it's worth it. So I got married when I was older. I know I look like I'm 25, but I'm actually 46. And what I like to say is when I got married, I was a fully formed person. I probably wasn't ready to be married any earlier than that. And we had Julian, my son, later on in life as well. So we kind of knew what we were getting into. We were a little eyes wide open, and knew what to expect a little bit, but it's all been great. It's all been really a blessing. So we're very thankful.
Yeah, you're like I am, man. I'm an old dad. Waited to have kids until my late 30s. And it's interesting because just like you, man, I would not have been the same father I am now 20
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of friends who started in their late teens and early 20s. And I just know who I was then. I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I wanted kids. I knew I wanted to have a family, but I also knew that point of time in my life, it was not the right time. And even now, like as I look back on it, a better parent, a lot more patient, a lot more focused on being a parent. I don't have side distractions of things that I would have if I were younger. A lot of pondering on this. The only downside, the only regret, not really a regret, but it's less time that I get to spend with my kids as they age, right? So since I waited later, now I'm going to be older as they are aging, and I won't get as much time with them.
Well, luckily for me, I'm going to live forever. So
Nice.
That's going to be, that'll be an advantage for me.
Same thing with again, both in the business for almost 20 years, helping people buy houses. You've been with Fairway for 2 years. Come from a family, have brothers, have siblings that you grew up with, just like I did, and Yeah, it's interesting as we talk again, always just to see the similarities and why we hit it off right when we met. Um, so TJ, first I want to get into a little bit of, I want to shape your why, and then I want to talk about the why. So when you and I originally kind of broached the conversation about the why, you had kind of an interesting take on it. Like, listen, this is where I am now, maybe not where I was before. Don't really know if this why is going to stick around. So first, let's get into your why, and then let's kind of share that progression first. So tell us your why.
Sure. So it's funny because I was a big Simon Sinek fan from the jump, right? Saw his TED Talk, read his book, read two books, Leaders Eat Last and Start With Why. I've read, Infinite Game. So when people talk about why, I feel like that's thrown out a lot, and people just kind of put what you want to hear in there, which is whatever. I feel like there's people say what you want to hear a lot. We're in sales, so you get a lot of people saying what you want to hear. But for me, really, my why is to be the best father and husband that I can, with the limited skill set that I have. Right. So I'm not great at a lot of things. And just finding the things that I am great at, or, better than average, I should say that, and using those skills to be the best father and husband that I can possibly be. And that's important to me. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. One of the things that I'm skilled at is mortgages. So that's one of the things that, I get up and try to do my best in my job and helping people achieve the American dream of home ownership. And through that, kind of the ripple effect, or the byproduct of me doing that, is I'm able to provide a good family environment for my family. And and part of that also, though, besides the kind of monetary stuff and financial support, is I feel like being present. I'm someone who's easily distracted, and that's something that I'm working on, is being more present in family situations, and thinking less about, hey, this would be a really good picture to put on Facebook, and more about enjoying my actual time with my family that I have. And being inside of this, I guess, pandemic, lockdown, whatever it is, you kind of realize pretty quickly, or over time, or you're stuck with your thoughts a lot, and you really kind of can categorize, all right, I'm not good at this, I am good at this, I'm not good at this, and you can kind of figure out how to use your skills to your advantage and to the betterment of your family.
Yeah, I feel like that there's a struggle with acknowledging and having your faults kind of staring at you now. Where before you could be preoccupied, you could be going out, you could be doing dinner, you could be spending time with friends, you could be going, but there's all these other things that would occupy your time that kind of push those faults to the back of your mind so they're not staring at you. And I feel like right now, especially, some of those things that you're faced with when you're home and have nowhere else to be but home with yourself and your family, you've got to come to terms with some of those faults that we have, right?
Yeah, I mean, I look at them in the mirror every day. This used to be luxurious head of hair, and I just look in the mirror at I get nostalgic for the things that could have and would have and should have been. But there's a lyric in the Jackson Browne song These Days where he says, "Don't confront me with my failures. I remember them," and it's just true. When you're stuck at home and you're stuck kind of in a routine that's been, truncated, is that a word? Then you kind of are forced to face, and put into boxes. All right, I'm good at this, I'm not so good at this. So let's try to not do this. If you looked around the room that I'm sitting in, you can tell what I'm not good at. I'm not good at straightening up after myself. But the computer over there is has a lot of loan applications. So I'm focusing on what I'm good at, I guess.
Nice. So yeah. I want to make sure I rephrase your why. Right now, to be the best father and best husband you can, and focus on your strengths with that. Now, with this, you kind of hit on this already, but it doesn't sound like this was 17-year-old TJ's why.
No, no. 17-year-old TJ's didn't really have a why. He was just someone who was looking for a good time, and it's really embarrassing to say that, but it's the truth. And it's funny because even as you get older and as you grow as a person, I shouldn't say older, some people grow when they're younger, but as you grow as a person and you kind of become, as I've said before, a fully formed person, your circle of friends change. And when I was 17 all the way up to 30-ish, TJ surrounded himself with people who are a lot of fun. And that was the prerequisite, and that was pretty much the only prerequisite. You didn't have to be smart or successful or have good values. Funny trumped everything, and if you were funny, you were in, and or fun to be around. If you were someone where I called you up and we went somewhere and it was going to be an adventure, I was in. I was all in. So those priorities have changed, and it's just part of growing up. Now it's funny because now during the pandemic, we have Adventure Saturday, and the adventures that I go on now are last Saturday we went blueberry picking, and the Saturday before that we went to a farm in Jamestown on the water that had cows and sheep on it. And we went hiking the weekend before that on an adventure. So the adventures change, the idea of how you frame adventure changes, but it doesn't mean it's less rewarding or less fun. It's just different.
Yeah, it's most people know I'm a huge fan of Jim Rohn, right? And Jim Rohn talks about the seasons of life. So what's fun in fall isn't the same fun as winter or spring or summer, right? And I feel like as we go through those seasons of life, it's funny to think about. My wife and I laugh about this all the time because we've been together for almost 20 years, and we think about how our 20-year back there self would think about what we're doing today for entertainment and for fun, and just kind of laughing at how life changes and how things, the same as you, right? It was all about having fun, all about spending time with people who were alive and vibrant and funny and fun. So coming out of you being 17, and I think if I remember this right, you had a past life as a comedian and were funny professionally. Did that career path come from a why? Or did that just kind of cascade from you being down the path of wanting to have fun and be around people who are funny and feel that? Like, how did you fall into that career?
So my background is in theater. I like performing. I was an actor and a director, and I really liked those things. And I forget who I was with. I was with some people, and they said, you should do stand-up comedy. You're funny. To all the people watching this, I apologize for not being funnier throughout this. It's not going to get funnier. I apologize. This is whatever. You're watching the wrong video. So stand-up comedy was something where if you're a funny person, right, and most people that have friends who are funny in the context of sitting around and kind of cracking on each other or taking something that's come up and making fun of it. It's they're kind of jokes, that inside jokes for people that are in the room. The challenge of stand-up comedy is you have to write for strangers. You have to make something funny that strangers can relate to, and that a whole room of people from different backgrounds will find funny. And that was the challenge, and I really enjoyed the challenge. I liked performing the jokes. The difference between theater and comedy is if you're a comedian and no one laughs at your jokes, there's nowhere for you to hide, and there's no one for you to blame. I've been in shows, theatrical productions where, the director was terrible or the script was not good. Stand-up comedy, you have no one to blame, and the light is shining brightly on your faults. So there was, good and bad about that. The instant gratification of the laugh is the good part, and the terror of failure was the bad part. But it wasn't a why for me. And I think it was something that was a hobby, and I really didn't take it very seriously. I don't. If you know me well enough, you know that I don't take a lot of things very seriously. There's things I take very, very seriously, but most of the things that, and I think that's what really has helped me in my career is you talked about the squirrel being flattened. I've been a flattened squirrel many times in my various lives, and those were based on decisions that I made deliberately. So like I made it, all right, I'm going to do this and I'm going to cross the road, and I got flattened. And it's like the Batman thing, right? You got, when you fall, you get back up, whatever it was that he said. Doesn't matter how many times you fall down. It matters how many times you get back up. And I always say to my wife, and she always gives me this horrible look of doubt whenever I do. I say, I'm betting on myself. I always bet on myself because I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I can accomplish. And I also know that I'm probably going to fail a few more times before this is all over. It's just part of life. And if you accept that and you move on, you're going to be better off. If you think of failure as the end, you've already failed. But if you think of failure as part of the path to success, your chances of being successful are that greater.
Yeah, there's this example of the owner of Amazon, right, Jeff Bezos, who, if you look back at the investment decisions he made in 1988, 99, 2000, hundreds of millions of dollars lost in bad decisions and failures, quote unquote. And his philosophy was, I have to fail faster. I crave so much success that the more I get through these failures, the more likely it is I'm going to find that one thing that's a success. And I found that to be really powerful, right? He just kept driving through failures, understanding that they were a necessary part of his mission to be successful and mission to find that one thing.
Right.
So was it having a child that drove you to having a why? Because you kind of talk about 17-year-old TJ on into doing comedy, that those things were not your why, and you were still kind of on the search for the why. Was there a prior iteration of the why?
Yeah, I think it was probably meeting my wife. My wife is someone who has it all together. She's beautiful and smart and funny, and I think after I met her, I kind of just dedicated my life to impressing her or trying to impress her. Most of the time, failing to impress her, but the attempts are there. Like you just got to put the reps in. I think if you try to impress someone, over and over again, they'll be impressed by something.
Eventually, she'll just feel sorry for you and be like, "Okay."
Right. So I really think that's who gets credit, I guess. But and when we got married, we talked about having children, and we had two choices. We could, have a child, and it would be great, and it would be a blessing, and we would love it, or we could not have a child and just do whatever we wanted for the rest of our lives. We chose the harder path, obviously, and it's been great. And I think it's more family, more than a child or a wife. It's really having a family that is proud of me and whom I love and can just create a great family, safe and happy and healthy family unit for. So
yeah, I think that for so many people that I hate to even use the word cliche because it is important. Having family as your why is not cliche. It seems that way because so many people say it and so many people hold that as being so dear to them. I think what demonstrates that your family is so important to you is the commitment of time that you give to them.
I really think the people who back into a why that way, like, oh, it's their default why, they're doing themselves a disservice. I think if you actually go through the exercise of the golden circle, like Simon Sinek talks about, you'll figure it out. I think people who don't really know the origin or how the exercise works are going to say family by default. It's almost like we all know people who are in a bad relationship, they're in a bad marriage, and they're like, let's just have another kid, that'll save it, right? I feel like those are the people who just like, it's my wife is my family, that's what and it's there's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing, it doesn't invalidate what they're saying. It just, they're doing it like The Bachelor. They're in it for the wrong reasons, and it's probably going to end badly. If you can use I lost you there for a second. If you can, use the golden circle and back into your why based on your actions and your beliefs, that's going to give you the true, your true calling.
Yeah, and so coming out of the sequence of who you were growing up and meeting your wife and then having a child and your why and how that motivates you today, you kind of already hit on that. Definitely is a part of the morning routine. It is something that is a drive for you every morning when you wake up. Do you think that, is there a point in a day or in a lifetime where you think that you'll have that moment of relief or understanding, man, I did it, my why has been fulfilled? Or do you think it's truly something that's just never ending, that will continue every single day, that why will motivate you forever?
It's a good question, and I definitely think there are milestones, right? There are goals and milestones that I have that are going to contribute to it. And you and I talked before this about paying off debt, and I have a college fund for Julian, and I have another account for him. I'm creating a family trust that's going to hopefully create generational wealth, right? That's going to live on beyond me. And beyond beyond Sarah. So I'm hoping that, I think the overarching umbrella of my why will remain the same. But as we go and we kind of celebrate different milestones, it gives you kind of stepping stones or smaller goals that are attainable, and also you're able to celebrate those milestones, and so you don't lose sight of the overarching, kind of why.
Yeah, being similar to you in that I'm very family centric. I think that while the why will remain the same, as you said, overarching, I think that who you are as you work your way towards that why, and in the why, the moment of the why, when your kid is 2 or 8 or 12 or 17 or 30, obviously the person that you are and how you fulfill that why is going to change as you age and they age and your marriage matures. There's different things that happen as you go through that. So the why, again, is going to ultimately remain the same overarching, but there will be a change in your persona.
No, I agree. I also know that I know myself well enough to know I know I'm not good at a lot of things. We've already discussed this. I'm not good at most things, but the things that I am good at, that's what I can control, I guess. And knowing what you can control and what you can't control is an important part of it. There's going to be times where am I going to wish that the people in my life were happier? Yes. Or healthier? Yes. But there's not a lot that I can do. I can contribute what I can contribute to that. But a lot of times it's just being present, like we talked about before, and being, a nurturing, positive presence. Those are the things that, as you get older and grow, it's not about controlling anymore. It's just about, kind of contributing, I guess. That's part of it,
Yeah, sometimes being the best husband is just sitting in a room with your wife and not do it, just spending time, being present.
Just, giving the answers for the 2 New York Times crossword puzzles that, answers that she can't get. So I contributed to 1 this weekend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, it's close to my heart, right? The same. It really changed my life when I got married, and changed my life when I had kids. And and really influenced every day for me. Every day is changed and impacted by how my kids grow and as they grow up, and how my relationship changes as we're together for longer periods of time. And I thank you for being here. You're a great friend and a good brother, and I know you're a good dad. And we'll see if you're a good husband. I'll talk to the wife about that one day in the future. But I appreciate your time, my friend.
Yeah, you're going to hear conflicting, information on that one. I would take my word on it before you go out and try to get other sources. No, I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me. This has been a great conversation.
Now, tell me one thing. I ask everybody for final thoughts. Is there anything that we haven't addressed, or any final takeaways that we didn't hit on while we were talking?
Sure. So this, I'll give you a quote, and I'll give you a little background. And this quote has kind of stuck with me through this pandemic and through 2020, where there's been so many challenges. Warren Zevon was a rock singer who was really, I loved him. He was kind of crazy, lyrically crazy, musically gifted, and he was afraid to go to the doctor, and he avoided going to the doctor for years and years and years. And he survived a lot of bouts with drug and alcoholism, and he was just kind of getting his act together, probably in his 50s. He went to the he finally went to the doctor, and he had incurable cancer, so he was going to die. And we went on the David Letterman show, and David asked him, if you could give some advice, what would be your advice to give? He said, enjoy every sandwich. So make sure you enjoy every sandwich. That's about it. That's all you could do.
I love it. I love it. Little moments of celebration, which in my life I've been not so good at.
If you're like, where did that come from? It's just kind of being stuck and kind of being around all of the challenges of 2020, and also having the privilege of watching a 2-year-old eat a sandwich. And if you haven't done it, I highly recommend watching a 2-year-old eat a sandwich. Not in a creepy way. Don't be that guy. But if you do have the privilege of watching a 2-year-old eat a sandwich, make sure you do it. That's it.
I love it. Now, I've been notoriously terrible. I've been good at partying, not so good at celebrating. I think I said that right? Right. Yeah. So I've had to learn, coming out of that era of my life, that celebrating is equally as important, right? Having those milestones, and literally that idea of celebrating every sandwich is pretty cool. It gives you a different perspective on life.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.